Teachers should be able to require prayer time in class, right? And should public schools have religious chaplains? According to a recent poll by the Associated Press, a majority of Americans actually support having religious chaplains in school, but also oppose teacher-led prayer and required prayer time. And this is a perfect example of how complicated and nuanced our beliefs on the separation of church and state are. However, the poll also shows a majority of Americans support the separation of church and state. So why are political leaders having such a hard time with this one? Christian nationalism, but I don't have time for that. I'm going to make a separate video. Right now, let's just talk about separation of church and state. In May, the Supreme Court split 4-4 over what would have been the first publicly funded religious charter school, leaving this national dispute unresolved. Yay. And really highlights the conservative push to bring Christianity into public schools, which is something that First Amendment advocates have a little problem with, obviously. So while the Supreme Court split, significantly more Americans oppose allowing religious schools to convert into taxpayer-funded religious charter schools than support it. What else does the poll tell us on our collective values when it comes to the separation of church and state? About 3 in 10 U.S. adults, that sounded so Minnesotan, about 3 in 10 U.S. adults say that religion has too much influence over what children are taught in public schools. Nearly half of U.S. adults oppose religious exemptions for childhood vaccines required to attend public school. And most U.S. adults say that the separation of church and state is extremely important or very important to our identity as a nation. So considering the fact that a lot of us care a lot about keeping the separation of church and state, why are politicians pushing Christianity so hard?